evening, everybody. Welcome to the JavaScript Meetup. I am Ken Martinez. I am a current season 3 attendee of the daytime class. I'm followed by my partner in crime tonight, Alex Ado. We are going to show you a little bit of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We're going to work through a random name generator. And that's what we're doing tonight. So to get started, if you don't have VS Code, what we want to do is we can go ahead and share my screen first. Okay, and here we are. So most of you guys, I assume, will have VS Code open. I've already started with my folder. I call this JS Project Meetup. So if you can go ahead and take a few seconds, get that set up. And then when I get a little thumbs up, we can go ahead and go next to the next step. Okay. Also, too, if you don't know where to get that, I have the link to get that, and I'll throw that in the Zoom chat.
I put it in the check-in. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Cool. Awesome. All right. So everybody got a new folder populated and everything like that in their VS Code? Cool. So a little more thumbs up. Cool. All right, cool. So the first thing we need to do is we need to start with our folder or our project hierarchy. And how we start with this, we need to create our HTML element. The HTML element is basically where all our coding is going to go to kind of create the makeup of what we want. So over here on the right side of my screen, this is what we're looking for as the final product of our name generator. The functionality in our name generator, we're going to have a header. We'll have a little subheader kind of telling us what's going on. We have 2 buttons. They're going to switch between 2 different lists. These are list 1 and list 2. These will be 2 different lists as we create this together. In this field underneath it, we do have an output field where our list names will generate once we go ahead and click our button. So as we see here, we're like, cool, let's click a name for a button. So if we go to list 1, we go ahead and click for a name, we get Mark, Jeff. And if we were to operate to list 2, we would get Robert, Patricia, and it's all random. Okay, we're going to change these names and these lists in our own live version today, but this is kind of the gist of what our final product will try to look like. So going back to VS Code, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look for a couple extensions. So our first extension, or where we want to get our extensions, will be in this little part right here. It'll look like a Tetris block and a part's coming off. What we want to go ahead and search into our extensions is we want to look for live server. Okay, it should be 5.61. It'll look like this. Okay, so if we want to go ahead and install that, it should take a few seconds to install. So let you guys go ahead and grab that. Right there. And our second extension we want to grab is called Material Icon Themes. So here's our second one, and we can go ahead and download this one. What Material Icon Themes is if we start creating our folders or we're creating our files, when we create the specific files like an HTML file, like a JS file, it will let us exactly know. It gives a little bit of the icons you see on like websites or anything like that. So right here, it's pretty cool. NVIDIA CUDA, or if we're going Java, here's Java, JavaScript. So it's going to help us kind of identify where our folders are, or what file types we are making. And our last one, this is totally optional, is EPZ. I know some of you guys are probably using your own colors and color themes in your VS Code, which is totally fine. But this is kind of what we're using here, just so the colors will be about the same. So you can set that if you'd like. If not, that's okay too. You can still run with what you got. So I'll let you guys take a couple seconds. We'll get that going, and then we'll start creating our files. All right, cool. So everybody kind of got those extensions. Also, too, if it doesn't seem to work right away, what you can do is close your VS Code and then reopen everything up. So it should reload also. All right, everybody good? Okay, cool, cool. All right, awesome. All right, so one of the first things we want to do is we can close this down, we can close this down. Once we're here, what we want to look to create a very first file structure is we're going to go ahead and we're going to look for this little file guy over here, a little page. I want to go ahead and hit this. A little pop-up will come up. What I want to name this, I'm going to name it index. Okay, so it's called index, but here's the most important part. We're going to go ahead and hit dot. And now notice the little icon. If you have material icon, I'm going to put HTML. Okay, right there. Once I hit enter, we'll pop that open. I have now created my HTML file. All right, this is our basis. This is where everything's gonna go. So once we kind of do our live serve, we're gonna be able to manipulate this page to show what we would in the end have over here on the right side. So after that, once you get that going, we're gonna create a new folder. Right next to the file, we'll go to the folder. And I'm gonna go hit new folder. Here, we're gonna go ahead and call this styles. Okay, once we got styles, we're gonna go ahead and hit enter. That's gonna let us know that, boom, here it is. We wanna make sure that when we're gonna create a new file in a new folder, we want our new file to go inside. So I like to just make sure I highlight, it kind of drops down. And now I'm gonna go ahead and hit new file. Now you can see that it's inside my folder. And I'm gonna call this styles. Once again, I'm gonna hit dot, and this is where it changes. I'm gonna hit C, S, and S. So once you see it, if you guys notice slowly that the icon changed on my left side of that. Once I hit enter, boom, I have my style.css inside my styles folder. Okay, so what HTML is, it's basically our basic website. This is where we're going to do all of our editing, anything like that we want to have show up on our website. What CSS is, this is called our cascading style sheet. What cascading style sheet does, this is what's going to allow us to do all the styling inside the random name generator page. So picking the color, the font, italics, rounding off buttons, that's what helps us customize our HTML. All right, so on our last step, what we want to go ahead and do is create another folder again, just to make sure that we're outside the styles folder. We'll go right here, hit folder one more time. We can go ahead and just call this JS. Okay, same thing as before. I like to click on my folder just to make sure that we're going to have it populate inside. I'll create a new file, and I'm going to call this, just like in Unity, I'm going to call this script, and then dot JS. Well, here our material icon pops up, and now we have our script.js. So this is our basic folder structure for a vanilla JavaScript project. Cool. So that's kind of where we're at. So what we're going to go ahead and do now, we're going to go to Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a framework that's going to help us easily kind of style our website. So this won't go away.
I'll post a link in the chat right now.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to go to Bootstrap myself right over here. And then what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab it from here on Bootstrap. There's a little portion right here. We're going to go ahead and hit get started. And from get started, we're going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit, and we have a starter template. We're going to copy this starter template. Also, before I kind of move on, does everybody have the file structure created? Okay. All right, cool. Two ways to do this. You can do a huge, you can do a copy over, or we can just go ahead and hit the easy copy link. I got it copied. So my last file that I did make was my script.js. So I'm going to want to navigate outside of that. I'm going to go ahead and go into my index.html. Bootstrap is HTML framework. So once I have that in, I'm just going to go ahead and Control V. And now I've got my boiler template website already created. So remember, we got live serve. Here's a cool part. If I go ahead and click on index.html file, I go ahead and right click. I'm going to go ahead and say open with live server. Go ahead and click with open with live server, and whatever your browser is, we're going to have it pop up. So if we notice what we're kind of going on in here on our HTML side, it has hello world and then in hello world. So this is a title. We can change this to random name generator. So we know that we're on a random name generator website. So now that I changed it, if you notice up here, it's kind of right here being served at 1207.
Wait, is that why you had random name generator website open?
What's that?
The random name generator website, is that why you had it open? Because the code was gonna like transfer over, like display, or?
Yeah, so what we're doing right now is that with the live server from the index.html, once you right click on it and you hit open with live server, it should create this kind of like blank.
Okay, never mind.
Oh yeah, no problem, no problem.
Got it.
So this is what's the cool part about it with live server. I'm able to do something, I can change what's happening right now live, right? So I see Jacob right here, and I would say, we know right now in this top left corner, it's saying hello world. So if I wanted to say hello Jacob, I could do this right now and say hello Jacob. So if you want to try that out for a moment and try that out and say hello to yourself, go ahead. And that's kind of how we know that our live server in HTML is working. Okay. So if we're all caught up and we're all good, there's two things that we need to do. So one of the things is that, remember, we created a folder called styles.css, and we have our file called styles.css, and we have our JavaScript. These aren't doing anything for us right now. So what we want to do is we want to link those in. So at around like line 9, if we haven't changed anything, under line 9 to line 10, I want to go ahead and hit link or type in link. And if you have it in, if you hit tab, it will auto fill in my, what we call, it's called our div, right? So, and then inside of here, now we want to go ahead and link our styles folder inside. So what I'm going to hit is I'm going to hit period. I'm going to hit backslash, and you'll notice something. Now it says, cool, here's my styles folder. Okay, from right there, if I hit my enter button, it's going to let me know that it's going to auto populate my styles, and it's also going to have my styles.css file, or the actual program. I'm going to want to go ahead and hit enter there. So now I have my style, so my CSS file linked up to my my HTML. Okay. So once we get that kind of going, let me know. Should be pretty quick and easy. If there's any questions, let Alex know, and we can stop a little bit and kind of help you out with that. Okay, one of the great ways I like to make sure that my styles.css is connected. We can do a dot test, curly brackets, open curly brackets, and usually all I like to do is do a little color. I learned this from Jatine back then, and then I just tend to do purple. So we can do that. So it's gonna be color, semicolon, and then, no, those are not semicolons. 2 dots. Okay, yeah, purple, and then semicolon to finish. If you got that there, I'll wait for a minute, let you guys kind of how to copy that down. Cool. All right. And so I'm going to run back to my index.html. And then from here, if in my H1 tag or my H1 container, however you'd like to think about it, we're going to go ahead and break open this div where it says H1. I'm going to open up these alligators. I'm going to type in class, and we're going to go equal to double quotation marks. And inside, I'm going to go ahead and type in test. If you notice, and if it's working, we should be able to have our text change from black to purple or whatever color you happen to do. So once again, live server is letting us know that, hey, dude, we have this text. It says, hello, Jacob. I have added a style to it called the color purple with the test class, and we'll kind of go over that if we have time. And that's how I know that that's all working. So that's awesome. We're in a good spot. Did everybody able to kind of get that working by chance? Okay, cool.
Wait, I don't think mine did.
Okay, sure. I'll give you a minute.
H1 class test.
Equal to double quotation marks and test.
I did my colors blue, violet.
Blue, violet. Yeah, whatever. As long as the color
Yeah,
changes the
so,
text.
okay, let me, and then you just go open with live server.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you should have a window open and you should be able to see that.
Yeah, mine's not turning.
It's all,
Maybe I didn't open my file, like maybe I did my files like out of random, but I'm not sure.
You want to unshare, Ken?
yeah,
And then,
sure. We can take a look at it.
Okay, I'm just gonna share my desktop. All right, so like right here, do my files look like they're normal?
You have a space between your equal and your test. Let's
Yeah.
go ahead and close that through.
Should I try now?
Yeah, just
One more thing, on her href on line 10. If you go to your
she's
href
missing a
attribute-
backslash.
Yeah,
Where?
so you, on line 10, all the way to the right where it says href equals dot styles.
Uh-huh.
On front of the dot, do a backslash. So it should be dot backslash styles.
That?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think I might have changed it already.
Oh,
There you go. Yeah, you got it. Cool. Anybody else? We're all good, guys. Okay. All right. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. Cool. All right. So now that we have our CSS linked up, we're gonna go ahead and link up our JS. All right. So down underneath here, so if we haven't changed too much in our HTML structure, at about kind of like line 20, where we see on line 19, we have a script. I want to go ahead and go right here. If you want to make space, totally fine, just to make sure that you're in the right area. I'm going to go ahead and type script. And then src. But actually, let me do that one more time because it's not, I don't want to let you guys, I want to let you guys know that. Boom, script. It'll pop up. Don't worry if it pops up this way, if it's a capital or a lowercase, it should be okay. So we do kind of want to copy what's going in on our top script also. So if you populated a script div or a script type and it doesn't have an src in it, that's okay. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and type in src equal to, we'll have double quotes. And then again, we should be noticing that, hey, cool, my files are showing up. Okay, I have my JS folder, and then I can choose my script.js. And then that's right there. It's all linked up. And when we get to the JS portion, Alex will show us how we know that this portion is all linked up. Cool. All right. So once that's all good, we're going to go ahead and start creating our header for our website. So I'm going to go ahead and delete line 14 where it says hello name or whatever, or you can keep it there. It's completely up to you. So I'm going to delete it. And what we're going to do is we're going to start using the awesome grid portions of Bootstrap. So to start, we're going to write the word div. Okay, divs are basically our containers that are going to house our elements. All right. So like kind of how we broke open that first div the way we did to add our test CSS. I'm going to go write class equal to double quotation marks. I'm going to write the word container. I'm going to hit dash fluid. And that is our first div. Okay. And our generic files, when we're kind of making new elements in HTML, this is kind of how we want to roll. And then from here, notice I have my first div and then my closing div. We'll always know that it's a closing tag if it says div and there's a backslash in front. All right. In between these two, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. I'm going to break this open. I'm going to type in div one more time. I can hit tab. It should create my two divs. Then I'm going to go ahead and type class one more time is equal to double quotation marks, and then I'm going to type in the word row. Okay, once I get that going, I'm going to go ahead and break open this div set right here, and then I'm going to type the same thing as before, div. I'm going to break it open again, type class, and then I'm going to go ahead, double quotes, and I'm going to write the word call, but I'm going to do a little bit something different here. I'm going to hit call -4. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you what we're going to go on right here. What I want to do now, instead of typing it out, I'm going to go ahead and copy this portion here, classic copy. I'm going to paste it 2 more times. So I'm going to have something that looks kind of like this. Okay, in Bootstrap, the units of like kind of like the HTML structure goes in units of 4. And why that is, it's a pretty easy number to divide through. So if I ever think about splitting up my screen right here on the right, I have 3 equal portions of my website, right? So if I did test, oh, it's really small right there, but I can see that I have my test words all proportioned out equally. So Bootstrap kind of helps us out with stylizing our website just a bit. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of my test, and inside this middle one, in our middle number 4, I'm going to break this open. I'm going to create an H1 element. So I'm going to type H1. If you have it, the things going right here, we have an H1 tag. I'm going to go ahead now and say, this is our random name generator. And boom. So now we see that I have my random name generator and it's centered like kind of like right there in the middle, which looks really great. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I'll let you guys kind of look at that, get that going on, and we're going to go from here. Okay. So we're inside our row. So this is our parent div, then in these what would be called our child. So at about line 21, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. If you want, we can just copy actually all of this right here from 16 to yeah, 16 to, there we go. Cool. Yeah, 16 to 21. I can copy it. And then I will go ahead and paste underneath here. And we have the same thing. Okay, I know what I did wrong.
You could just remove the line 28.
Yeah. Is it the line 28? Okay.
Yeah. Be careful not to have accidentally too many closing divs. You want one open div for each closing div.
Correct. Yep. It's not centered correctly, but that is here. We'll do this. Let's go ahead and we'll do a new div. And then I'm just going to create a new row for this. So same thing as before. We'll go class dash equal to row. I'm going to open this div up. A little cool little shortcut. If I go ahead and highlight all of my line 27 to 31, I can hit Alt on my keyboard and press up. That'll kind of push it up. I didn't do it. Okay.
You on line 23, you need another S in your class.
Thank you. There you go. All right. I'm going to go ahead and delete my H1. I'm going to create a P tag, hit tab, and I'm going to go ahead and write in defaults to list 1 right there. And we'll see that right there. Cool. All right. And so one more thing we can do, we can actually copy all of this one more time. Actually, this we're right here, we're right here. And then create it one more time, copy and paste it. Also, if it's kind of starting to kind of look a little weird, we can go ahead and format our document by going format to document, and it'll kind of line everything up. All right. So what we need now, we're going to create our button group. Once we got that all going, we're going to go return back to our Bootstrap. We're going to go to our side menu. We're going to look for our portion called components. And then inside the components, we're going to go ahead and look for our button group. And if we scroll down just a bit, we're going to look for this portion right here, checkbox and radio button groups. What I'm going to go ahead and do right over here, I'm going to go ahead and copy where it's radio, radio, and radio. I'm going to go ahead and copy this to the clipboard. Inside that second div of a column 4, at about line 37 or so, or within that range, I'm going to go ahead and paste my buttons. So now if we notice, we should have 3 buttons. So I'll let you guys go ahead and do that real quick, get you guys caught up. All right, and if we're already over there, what I want to do is we have 3 buttons. I don't really need 3 buttons, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight 44 to 45. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that guy there. I'm going to just kind of close this in so I kind of know where I'm at. All right, cool. So is everyone good for with the buttons?
Wait, how did you get the buttons again?
I went over to Bootstrap website. I went to components.
Mhm.
I clicked under button group. It's all kind of about in alphabetical order. I scroll down just a tad. I'm looking for the place called checkbox and radio button groups. And there's this portion underneath here called the radio groups. I should have 3 buttons with the radio. I'm going to copy this over here.
So you went to components and then you click buttons and then
Button group, actually.
button group.
Yeah.
And then checkbox. Okay.
Yeah, looking for checkbox and radio button group. Then you can hit the little copy right over here.
Can you share your code then? Like what?
Sure. Oh, where did I paste you? I want to see where I put it. So when we created our next row, it's going to be in our second set of column 4 div. So it's going to kind of hang out right here in the middle. Just like everything else we've been creating throughout the night.
You want to undo it and then show where it goes?
Sure. So if you have the default, if you copy and paste it, you'll have the default top list, and then, oop, that's not it. Control Y. Boom. Paste it inside the column 4. And then I just kind of formatted it, and then I got rid of the extra button. That would be radio button 3.
Okay, so the 3rd button.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You all caught up? Got it?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, cool. So we're going to kind of set up a little bit of a couple things before we go off on this side. So if we notice inside this portion right here, inside our button group, so from div, our line 37 on my side, it should be kind of equivalent depending on how you broke yours up. Inside the class, the button group, and in the input, I want you guys to locate something called the IP tag. So it's right here on our first button. It should be called button radio 1. All right. What I want to go ahead and do here, I'm going to set this up I'm setting this up a little bit for Alex in a few. So what I want to do is get rid of button radio 1, and then I'm going to call this a game list. And make sure we're using our camel case like normal. So also too, we have a couple other tags inside or labels inside with name and 4. We're going to go ahead and just rename those from what they have on default to game list also. So take a second to go ahead, or take a few seconds to go ahead and do that. And then also on our second button group, just the same way, we're going to locate that ID label. I'm going to get rid of this button radio. I'm going to call this actor list. Camel case once again, and I'm going to do the same as I did for the name label. And for the for label, right underneath the name label. Actor list. So if we're going back over to a random name generator, one thing that we want to do also, go back to your first button where it says radio 1. I'm going to just go ahead and name this to my game list. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my second button for my actor list. So now we can see that we have a change right over here on our HTML side. Cool. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and create our output field. So what the output field is, so if we're over here, we're still going to stay within our container. Yeah, right there. And right there. Yeah, all right, cool. Let's just clean that up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and I'm missing a div, I think, but we'll go boom. Yeah, let me create one more div. I know where I'm at. Yeah, well, now we're okay. All right, cool. All right, so now we'll go underneath this row, everything that we've created. It's a little wide, but that's all right. We're gonna create our output field. If we know what we're doing, we're basically doing the same thing. Once again, we go div. I can go class dot equal sign equals to row. And then inside of this, I can go a div one more time. And then I will do my class is equal to column dash 4. And I can recopy this one more time. I should have had you guys copy a couple more, but that's cool. Awesome. All right. And then when we're here, inside the middle one again, this would be like 2/3 the way through. We'll break this one open. We'll create an H3 tag. And then just kind of like how we did over here with the ID tag, we're going to break open. Actually, let's go ahead and type this in first, guys. We'll put name will appear here. All right, now we got it. And inside this tag right here, one side our H3, right where the H3 is, we'll break that open, type in class, or actually, I'm sorry about that one. I take that back. Just like our buttons, we're setting this up for Alex on the JavaScript side, we're going to create an ID for it. So instead of class with this H3, I want to go ahead and hit ID is equal to double quotation marks, and we're going to go ahead and call this name. Okay, we're just follow along with this. We're creating it right now so we can be able to reference this when we go ahead and do our JavaScript side. All right, so we have one last element that we need to create. So if you want, go ahead and copy this new portion, this new row with the columns in it. We're going to go underneath. Once again, we can kind of check where we're at. So if I see my top div and I can see my closing div, I know that where I'm at. I want to be in between or underneath that to create my new one. We'll copy and paste. And what we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to go back to Bootstrap. From when we're at Bootstrap, we were in the button groups. So now we're going to go into the components and we're going to go back to our buttons. From our buttons, we're going to scroll down just a tad. And we're looking for our outline buttons. We're right over here. So in Bootstrap, it's kind of like a lot of easy stuff to help us create buttons and create elements for us. So what I'm going to choose, I'm going to go ahead and choose my primary button. I'm going to take this top line right here, copy everything from the opening alligator to the closing alligator. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And where my H3 was, because we copied it, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that over. So here we go. We notice that we have the primary button here with the outline there. And what I want to do is we have to give this this new button an ID also. So right about at the end of the secondary quotes inside our button, for me, it's line 62, kind of like locate where you just put your button right on the second where the double quotes end. Go ahead, hit enter. We're going to hit ID, type ID is equal to double quotations mark. And we're going to go ahead and call this name gen BTN because it's our name generation, but name generation button. And then so it just doesn't say primary. Right inside the two tags, I'm going to go ahead and say generate. So cool. If we got everything going, we should have everything showing up just like this. So if we're all good, does everyone have just about the equivalent of what we just did in the last few minutes? Okay, cool. Carlos, Jacob, I see that. Corin. Good. Evie, Nando, Bert.
Alex is attempting to help me through chat. I had to restart my computer, so I'm way behind.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So if anyone, so what we'll do right now is, let's go ahead and take about a 10-minute break. So we can kind of get, whoever needs to get caught up, kind of stand up, get a drink of water, whatever you need. And then when we come back from the break, we're going to have Alex show us how to do all the cool functionality of making a random name generator. All right, so go ahead and do that. It's 6:52.
So we have to figure out where everybody needs to quarantine. Robert needs to.
Alrighty, guys.
Be
So
somewhere.
now that we've done our HTML, we are going to go to our JavaScript.
Oh, Bert, you're on hot mic.
Sorry.
You're good now.
Alrighty, so we're going to click over to our JavaScript file on this hierarchy here. It should be empty. And we're just going to check to make sure that this JavaScript works. We're just going to head and type alert. And we're going to do a parentheses, a double quotes, and let's just put hello. So now when we refresh our page, or it might just do it for you automatically, we should get this kind of alert that says hello. Is everyone able to get that? Cool. I'm going to
Wait,
assume
I was
silence is good. Okay. Yeah, no problem.
I mean, I did exactly what you did, but
Want to go ahead and share your screen?
are my files messed up?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at your index HTML. And then scroll all the way to the bottom of that.
You know what? I had
Oh.
opened like a new console, like we were doing C scripts. I didn't know.
You're fine.
Yeah, on line 73, Evie, you have to put at the front of the JS, it should be dot and then backslash. So right at the beginning, all the way at the beginning.
Right here.
Yeah, hit dot
Slash.
and then backslash. And that should be okay.
You also have a typo at the front of that line. You're missing the T.
Good catch. Yeah.
Where?
At the very front of it. So it just says script without a. So go back a couple of spaces.
Oh, right here. Huh?
Yeah, and thank you, Raka.
Um,
And then refresh your page. Okay, didn't pop up.
And then one thing I also noticed is your JavaScript folder is inside of your styles folder. So you
Yes.
probably want to move it out. Yeah.
files are messed up. Okay, so where would I would put this like,
See,
You can just move it all the way out for now.
yeah,
okay. Like right here.
Not in there. No.
That's
Cancel.
all?
Move it all the way down.
Okay.
is that right?
Like not
I
in,
believe,
not in
that was
anything.
right.
No, I
Just
know,
there.
I know. Okay. But why is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, just
Oh,
click
let's just go
move.
ahead. Let's just go ahead and
Yeah.
delete it, and then we can make a new one really quick.
Yeah, that'll work.
Wait, I just want to make sure I'm clicking on this. Okay, delete. Move the trash.
Yeah, she saw the folder inside too.
Okay. I'm just gonna delete this one. Wait. Is this part of my JavaScript folder? This HTML? Did I do that?
Right now, nothing's in that folder, so I think it's safe to delete that one.
Okay. Cool. And then
And then
I
just click
click out,
outs. Yeah,
make
click,
them-
there you go. Should be good.
JS.
Yeah,
No.
click there, and then you can do that
Good
way.
file right there. Yeah.
Or like this file. Okay.
Yeah,
Either
works
way, it's
too.
fine.
And
Yeah,
then just
Script.js.
okay. Script.
Sorry. I'll let you go, Kim.
.js, go ahead and hit enter. And then go ahead and try to, let's
What?
go, yeah, go ahead and see, I should, yeah, you got it. So it's alerting you. So it's not saying anything because there's nothing inside, but if you type hello and then refresh it again, once it kind of catches up, just hit okay, and then refresh again. There you go. Now it's all linked up. All right, Alex, whenever you're ready, bud.
Cool. Yeah, that's a super important part because when we start doing stuff, we want to make sure that our JavaScript is linked up. So first, what we're going to do is we need to create variables that can hold our game list and our actor list. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with let. And in JavaScript, what let does, it lets us create a variable. See how the name kind of correlates with what it does. So we're going to do let, and let's just call this one game list. So we're naming our variable game list. We're going to set that equal. We're going to click on the square brackets. And in the square brackets, we're going to do a double quotes. And here we can start writing out a game per se. So I'm going to do Borderlands as one. And then after we've put one in, just one name, we're going to go outside the double quotes and click a comma. And then this signifies that we're going to go to our second item in the list, which then we're going to do a double quote again. And then let's just put Apex Legends, because I just last saw a commercial on that. And from there, let's go ahead and do another comma outside the double quotes, another double quotes. We're going to do a few more like this. If you guys want to name out some games, I will put them in.
Resident Evil.
Pokemon.
I'm gonna toss in a generic list also in the chat, just so if you're just trying to catch up, you'll have that.
And let's go ahead and get one more. What about, let's go Metal Gear. All right, and if I expand this out, we have right here a let that lets us define a variable. Our variable is called game list. This game list is within an array, and then what an array is for JavaScript is that it's just going to hold a list of items. These items could be numbers, integers of any sort. They could be strings, could be variables. They can hold whatever you want. But here we're just going to hold some strings. So what we did is we did double quotes and then put in one game. And then outside of the double quotes, we did a comma so that we can start putting in multiple games. So now that we got that at the end of the
Does it
line,
need to-
go ahead.
Does it need to end with a semicolon? Because the one in the chat ends with a semicolon.
Yeah, so what I was going to say is that we're going to put a semicolon at the end to just signify that we're done with this line. And this helps when we're doing more complex stuff, because if you forget your semicolons, JavaScript is forgiving and that it'll still run without the semicolons, but that's also its downfall, because you can do some complex stuff and then have a bug that you misplaced a semicolon or you didn't put one. So we're going to make sure that we do our semicolons at the very end every time we finish a line or a good amount of logic. And so next, what we're going to do is we're going to do a let, and we're going to call this one actor list. And so this is going to be a list that holds our actors. You double quotes. And then if you guys want to put any actors, just go ahead and name them out loud.
Tom Cruise.
Will
Tom
Smith.
Cruise.
There's an example list also for you guys.
Let's do a few more. What about Jennifer Lawrence? Ooh, let me get my double quotes.
Lisa Kudrow.
Ooh, how do you spell that name?
Kudrow.
Can we get Joseph to spell that out for us?
Oh, and then if you notice there's a red squiggly line, that's because I forgot my comma. So now that we have 5 actors at the end of this line, we're going to do a semicolon. Cool. So now we have a list of games and a list of actors. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to create some space, and by hitting enter, you can make as much as you want. I'm just going to do a few right now. And so next, what we need to do is we need to be able to grab these buttons here. How do we do that? We go to our index, and because Ken helps me out and made an ID, we can already just grab one. But what this ID does is that it'll reference what we want. And so we can then manipulate that item or that element to do what we want. So here in our script.js, we're going to go back here really quick, and we're going to type let. That's going to be a variable for our button here, our game list button. Well, let's just go ahead and call it game list btn. From there, we're going to hit equal sign. And then we're going to type out document. And what document does is that it lets us reference our HTML that we've connected with our script. We're going to hit dot, and we're going to type get element by ID. And then we're going to hit parentheses and double quotes. And so now we want to retrieve that ID that we just saw in our HTML. So we click on our HTML, we go down, and we want to specifically go to this button group. We want to go to this first input because this one controls our game list button. We're going to go to this ID. We're going to just go ahead and copy Control-C for PC, Command-C for Mac, or you can just right-click and copy. We're going to go back to our JS. Inside these double quotes, we're going to paste in exactly what we copied. We need it to be 1 for 1 so that we can then reference this button with our variable, because then we could just start doing some kind of click features or hover features. So you can do a lot of things once we have connection with the HTML. Okay, at the end of line 4, we're going to hit another semicolon. Click enter, and then now we're going to do another variable, so let, and this one's going to be for our actor list button over here. So let's go ahead and do actor list btn. From there, we're going to do an equal sign and document dot get element by ID, parentheses, double quotes, and now we want to go back to our HTML and grab the actor list ID. Copy that and paste that. Cool. Any questions so far in retrieving IDs? All good to go.
You don't have to copy it, right? You could just type it here.
You can type it, yeah. Copying just helps making it word for word, because typing you could accidentally do like a lowercase.
Yeah.
So if I did game list lowercase, then it's not going to grab it. I have to do specifically how it's written. So yeah, if you do type it out, just make sure it is 1-for-1 on letter. Cool. Now that we got our IDs, if we look back at our buttons and when we click on them, we notice that they're both highlighted. This is because when we changed our IDs, we kind of like mess with the functionality of it a bit. So we're gonna restore functionality to these buttons so that they're not constantly clicked. So what I'm gonna do now is we need to create a function in JavaScript. To create a function, all we gotta do is type function, hit space, and then we wanna give this function a name. So let's just call it game btn checked. And normally when we create functions, usual syntax is the first letter in the word is always capitalized. So the G is capitalized, the B, and then the C. So we're going to call this game button checked. We're then going to do parentheses. We're going to go outside the parentheses and do squiggly braces. And there we're going to hit enter. So in this game button checked, we want to check to see if actor list button is checked. Because if actor list button is checked, if this one is checked and we want to go back to game list, we want actor list to not be checked. Well, how exactly are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to go ahead and refresh this. There we go. So if we go back on our index.html and we go back to our button group, we go to our input element. This input element, if we scroll all the way to the right, has this attribute called checked. If we remove this checked, we notice once we refresh, it's not clicked anymore. But if we click on it, it can be clicked. So what this is saying is that depending on whether or not this input has the checked attribute, will determine whether or not it is quote unquote checked. Cool. We can work with this then. So what we can do is say if, because we want a conditional to check to see if actor list button is clicked. If, and because we created this variable here that will then grab our actor list button, we can just reference the variable. So if actor list button dot checked is true, and how this works is you can do equals true, or if you want, you can leave it as is. And what an if statement does is that it allows it to check if it's truthy or not. And so if the expression in here or the item, if it can relate to true or false, then if it's true, it'll run whatever we determine in here. And if it's false, it's going to go outside of this if statement. Cool. So if actor list button is checked, what we want to do is we want game list btn dot checked to equal true. And then we want actor list btn dot checked to equal false, because we're checking for our game list button. And so if actor list is already clicked, we want to be able to click on our game list and turn off this actor list button. So now that we got that, we're going to make another function that will check for the actor list. And that one will check to see if game list is already selected. And if that one's selected, game list will turn off and then actor list will turn on. So we're going to hit enter outside of line 12, make some space. I like to do like a 1-line gap between functions. It helps to read them. I'm going to type in function. We're going to call this one actor list button, actor button checked. Sorry. We're going to do parentheses and then squiggly braces. Cool. In this one, we're going to check if game list button dot checked. And so if game list button is checked, then we're going to do squiggly braces so that we can do some sort of logic. And what's going to happen here is actor list button dot checked is going to equal true, and game list button dot checked is going to equal false. So now if game list button is checked and we want to click on our actor button, then we want game list button to turn off and our actor list button to turn on. Cool. So we made some functions, but nothing's happening yet. Well, that's because we gotta tie it into our buttons now, because we've given it some logic or some order to do, but it doesn't know like when to do it. So now what we got to do is we're going to create some space up here. On line 8, we're going to go ahead and choose our game list button variable. We're going to say dot or type dot, and then we're going to type add event listener. And what event listener does is once we hit parentheses, we can tell this button on certain events to do something. So a click event, a hover event, a mouse over event, a mouse out event. So there's a bunch of events that can happen here. What we're focusing on is a click event. So what we'll do is in these parentheses, we'll do double quotes and click. So now when a click event occurs, we're going to comma, and then we want it to do a certain function. For our game list button, we want to do the game button checked function. So we're just going to type out game btn checked. Hit semicolon at the end of this. And we're going to do the same exact thing to our actor list button. We're going to add an event listener. We're going to click parentheses. In these parentheses, we're going to do a double quotes, and we're going to type in click. Outside the double quotes, we're going to hit comma, and then actor list, or sorry, actor button checked. And then we're going to put a semicolon at the end of this. So now, once we refresh our server and we click on actor list, our game list turns off. And if we click on game list, our actor list turns off. Were we able to get that to work? Cool. I'm going to assume silence is okay if no one's saying otherwise. So now that we got these buttons to click whenever we want, that's all they're doing though. We need to make sure that if we click on the game list button, it's tied to this game list array that we've made it. If we click on this actor list button, it's tied to the actor list array that we made. So how are we going to figure that part out? Well, what we can do is between line 6 and 7 here, we're going to add more space here. Again, I just like to be able to see everything as I type it. On line 8, I'm going to write let. We're going to call this variable chosen list. We're going to set it equal to an empty array. And then outside the empty array, we're going to do semicolons. So now we got just a random variable called chosen list that we've set it to an empty array. So what we want to do is we want to create some sort of function that lets us put our game list into this chosen list. So then we can then, start making our name generator. So what we're going to do is we need to create a function. So let's go ahead and let's just go down to line 28. I'm going to make some more space. So now at line 29, I'm going to write function. This is a start to denote that we're making a function. And I'm going to call this choose list. From here, I'm going to click parentheses. And I'm going to type in list inside the parentheses. Now, what exactly is happening here? Well, what I've just done is that I've created a parameter that is now needed for this function to work. And what parameters are, this can be anything. Parameters are just placeholders to allow any variable, any item, just anything to be placed within the function. So now if we use this function, we need to add something that we're just going to call it for the sake of name as list. And usually placeholders, you want to call it kind of similar to what it is, just to like readability purposes and understanding what you're doing. So after we've done that parameter, we're going to do the squiggly braces and we're going to click enter. From here, we want to grab our chosen list variable. So we're just going to do chosen list. And then we're going to set it equal to list. So now every time we call this function, we're going to pass something in. When we pass something in, it's going to be on our chosen list variable. So now what we can do is go back to our game button checked function. And if we click on it, or if we hit enter, we can call this function choose list. And so how that works is we're just going to write choose list. We're going to do parentheses, and then we're going to do game list. Cool. And then if we do go to the actor button checked, we're going to click enter to make some space in this function. And then we're going to write choose list, parentheses, actor list. Semicolon at the end. And so now every time this game button is checked, or this game button function like occurs, then we will now put our game list into this chosen list. And then if the actor button checked function goes, which then checks to see if we click on actor list button, our chosen list will now be actor list. So we can check to see if this works by clicking on enter right at the end of line 20. And we're going to write console.log chosen list. And then we're going to copy and paste. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it at the bottom of this function as well. So what exactly is console.log? Well, this helps us log things in a browser. And how do we get to that? Well, once you click on a browser, you can right click and then go down to inspect and make sure you're on the browser. You don't want to be on, say, your code and then right click. It's just better to make sure that you're clicking on this browser. So go ahead and right click. And then we're going to go and inspect. And inspect here brings up a bunch of dev tools that we can use to figure out what's happening in our page and to see what's going on. Again, all I did was right click and go to inspect on our browser. And I want to click on console. And I want to be on either messages or no user messages. So now when I click on actor list, our actors appear. When I click on game list, our game list appears. Cool. All right, so now that we have the chosen list, we need to be able to put these one of these items into this name will appear here section, our output area. And that's going to work based on our primary button here. So I'm going to go back to my index.html. I noticed that it's typed out as primary. I'm going to change mine to click for name. I'm going to exit out of this real quick. Cool. So now my button is just called click for name. Okay. So what we need now is we need to grab IDs from our button as well as our text area. So first I'm going to grab this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, go to script. And right now this is saved to this name is saved to my clipboard right now. So what I can do is I can just start creating a variable to house my ID, kind of like our actor list button and our game list button. So on line 6, And if you don't have space, you can just always hit enter and then make more space. We're going to do let, and then let's just call this name gen. This will be where our name generator takes place. We're going to set it equal to, like we did before, document dot get element by ID. We will then do parentheses, double quotes, and then we could just paste in that ID there. And again, we need it word for what it is over here. This ID is name. Then on the script side, we need to make sure this part is name. Cool. We have a variable now that has the ID for our text areas. So then we can start manipulating with that one. But now we need the button as well. So let's go ahead and I'm going to create a variable for that. Let name gen, let's call it button. And then we're going to set that equal to document dot get element by ID, parentheses, double quotes. And we're going to go back to our index. We see here at our button element, there's an ID called name gen button. And this is for our click for name. So this button right here. So I'm going to grab this ID and copy it, go to my JavaScript and paste it in there. Cool. So now I have a variable for my name gen button. Sweet. Now we need to create a function that allows us to pick a random index, a random item in our array. So I'm going to go down to line 15. I'm going to, you know what? I've been putting them at the bottom. We'll just go at the bottom. So down at line 37, let's create some more space. And then I'm going to write function. I'm going to call this one name generator. I'm going to do parentheses and then squiggly braces outside of that. And so here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a private variable. And so what that does, and we're just going to call this random number. So what that does is every time I call this function, this variable is going to be created. Otherwise, this variable will never be created unless the function is called. So notice how these are global variables. Well, this variable is specific to this function. So again, we're going to write let random number. What we're going to do is we're going to set this equal to math.floor. And what math.floor does, it is a math method that given a number in the parentheses of math.floor, it will then be reduced to its next lowest number. So say if it was 5.5, it would be reduced to 5. If it was 12.1, it would be reduced to 12. If it was 9.999, it's going to be reduced to 9. So, and then this is going to be handy in just a second. So again, we're creating a private variable, random number, set it equal to math.floor. In math.floor, we created a parentheses. And in these parentheses, we're going to do math.random. And what math.random does, and we're going to click outside these parentheses. What math.random does is that this allows us to get a random number between 0 and 1, not including 1. So it's technically from 0 to 0.9999, arbitrarily infinite 999. So what that's going to help us do is that we're going to multiply by the length of our array. So how do we get the length of our array? And what exactly is the length of our array? So the length of an array is just denotes how many items are in the array. So if we look at our game list, we have Borderlands, Apex, Resident Evil, Pokemon, and Metal Gear Solid. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. So the length of this array is going to be 5. And our actors list, we have Daisy Ridley, Tom Cruise, Will Smith, Jennifer Lawrence, and Lisa Kudrow. And here, again, five actors within our array. So we want to get that specific length. What do? We're just going ahead and going to type one of these lengths out. So let's just go ahead and do game list first. Game list dot length. So this allows us to get the length, which is 5. So what's going to happen here is that we're going to get a random number between 0 and 1. We're going to multiply that by 5. And again, 1 is not included. It's exclusive. So 0 to 0.999. We're going to get a number multiplied by 5. So it can be from 0 to 4.99999. And we're going to floor that. So then we get the next lowest number. We do this so that we could then reference this array at the index. And an index is just the position of the array. For arrays, the position always starts at 0. So even though this is, 1 item, 2 item, 3 items, how it's read in terms of index, this is the 0th, the 0 item. This is the first item. This is the second item, third item, and then Metal Gear would be 4th. Same with our actor list. So even though the length is 5, the total index is up to 4, which is why we need math.floor to round it down to 4. So now what we can do here is we can say, okay, well, we want to mess with the text of this element, which is our h3 in our index.html. And we've grabbed that ID earlier, and we've named it nameGen. So we're going to go ahead and do nameGen dot inner text. What inner text does is once we set it equal, we can set the inner text of this element to whatever we want. What do we want to do? We want to set it to an item in our game list array. So we're going to type game list. Then we're going to do square brackets. And from there, we're going to type in random number. Cool. So now what that does is that once this name generator is called, it's going to take from our game list array and give us a random number between 0 and 4. And then from there, it's going to give us a random game from our array. Well, wait a minute. This only does it for the game list array. What about our actor list? Okay, so now we need to make a conditional that checks to see which one is clicked. So I'm going to go back to line 38 at the very end of our squiggly braces, and I'm going to hit enter again. I'm going to write if parentheses, and then outside those parentheses, I'm going to do a squiggly brace and hit enter. And then I'm going to put lines 42 and 43, and I'm going to hit Alt and up arrow to just put this in our if statement. So what this if statement's going to do is that it's going to check to see if our game button checked is true. So then if we go game list btn, we do dot checked. And then we get outside the parentheses. What this does is if game list button dot checked is true, then it's going to run this logic. Otherwise, if it's false, nothing's going to happen. So what we're going to do, and because we're only working with 2 items, what we can write is else. So if game list button is checked, then it's going to run this. Otherwise, then it must be our actor list button. So then we can just do an else. We're going to do a space and squiggly braces. From there, I'm going to hit enter. And what we can do is we're going to do the same exact function, but with our actor list. So we can just go ahead and copy paste. So I'm going to grab this and hit Control C, or you can hit right click and copy. We're going to go in this else function on line 43, and I'm just going to hit Control V, or you can right click and hit paste. From there, I'm going to take our game list, and we're going to change this to actor list. Then over here for our game list array, we're going to do actor list. And so now, if game list button is checked, we're going to create a random number variable that's going to equal from the length 0 to 4, so that we can then change the inner text of our output field to be whatever it is in the game list array, which will either be Borderlands, Apex, Resident Evil, Pokemon, or Metal Gear Solid. Or if game list button isn't checked, then actor list must be checked, because we're only working with 2 buttons here. If there was more, then we would have to do something else. Otherwise, for now, this will work. So else, then we're just going to do that let random number again. And so because this if statement, if it's false, it's not going to run. This random number variable isn't going to be made yet. So now it's being made. And then here it's going to be equal to math.floor. And inside that math.random of actor list. So now we're just going to go between 0 and 4 of our actor list length. We're going to get, a number between 0 and 4. From there, we're then just going to access the inner text of the words here. And we're just going to set it equal to one of our actor list based on the number given from random number. So it could be Daisy Ridley, Tom Cruise, Will Smith, Jennifer Lawrence, or Lisa. Cool. Now that we have our function made, we could then go up here on our JavaScript file, and we're going to put it in the same area as these event listeners. What we're going to do is grab our name generated button. So name gen button. We're going to then do dot, add event listener. We're going to do parentheses. And again, we want this to be on a click. So we're going to type in click and these double quotes. We're going to hit comma. And then we're going to write out name generator. Cool. So now anytime we click on actor list and we click for name, we'll get an actor. And if we click on game list, click for name, we get a game. If say this was a new page, if we just click for name, we're already going to get a game list because it's already checked. Now, if yours is not checked, all you have to do is go to our index.html. We're going to go back up to our div class button group, and then just add the attribute checked. And if you've done all that, we have pretty much made our random name generator without any styling.